Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be talking about one of my freaking favorite things, and that is how you stand out online. Like what it is that makes you so totally different. Because I think that it's one of those things like in this day and age, you can throw a rock and hit another content creator. You can hit another person that is in spirituality. You can hit another person that's a business coach or a health coach. But like, I think a lot of people forget about the thing that makes them different and who they are and how they can bring that into their business. And so before we get started, I just like literally have to say, I curled my hair for the first time since November today. And I'm like, oh, I'm so obsessed with this. And I don't know about you, but I was in a real hard phase of using heatless curls for a really long time, but for some reason they got super uncomfortable to sleep in. So if you have any suggestions of how you do heatless curls in a way that is like comfy while you're sleeping, that's not like crazy on your head, like DM me and let me know. Because like the most recent one that I think I'm going to try again is using the little thing from your robe. Instead of those big fluffy heatless curl things, using the little belt from your robe and twisting it around, I think that that's my next venture. So let me know if you have a really comfortable version of heatless curls, because I'm sitting here and I'm like, girl, like Stella's got her groove back. Like I'm feeling it. I'm just so happy. And also, this is my first time that I am recording the podcast on Zoom, in the sense that like I'm turning this into YouTube longer form content. Because anymore, I was just saying to the TikTok live, I was just saying anymore, with like having a side job that I picked up for fun, I am more limited on time than I was before. Hey, Amanda, I am more limited on time than I was before. And so I have to be smarter about the way that I'm creating content, right? Like the way that I'm creating has to evolve with me, because it used to look like me getting on lives every single day. And now it's more so of like, ooh, girl, like whenever you show up, it's got to be sharp. It's got to be clear. It's got to be ready to go. And so getting on live video while recording podcasts, while recording stuff for YouTube, is just a way for me to do it where it feels really good to me. So think about this whenever you're creating for your business, because I know a lot of people who are parents that do this. I know a lot of people who have another side job that do this, or have like just plenty of other things going on in their life. So there really is a way to do this where you can get the most out of every single time that you show up. And like, I'm here to be an advocate for that. And to just like, if you're going to say something, like, let's take it and let's put it everywhere, like, let's not just let it die with that one live video. Like, no, let's turn it into short form content. Let's turn it into long form content. Let's turn it into podcast episodes, right? So let that tickle your brain and just give you a bunch of ideas of how you can show up for your business moving forward. But what we are going to be talking about today, I cannot freaking wait. This is like my favorite thing to work on with clients. And I feel like it's just been getting juicier and juicier and juicier as time has gone on in my business. And this is from an Instagram post that I created probably like a week or two ago. So if you're over here like watching the longer form content, like I'm going to share it. I'm going to share it on my Zoom, because I'm a visual learner. Sometimes I like to see the words, because that helps me remember things a little bit better than if somebody's just talking. Like it's very interesting how the brain works. And I feel like everybody's brain works differently. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen over here. Me. All right. So let's go over here. These are the 8 things that I truly feel like break you free from the cookie cutter mold online. Because like I was saying earlier, there are a million astrologers. There's a million health and fitness coaches. There's a million people making fancy cupcakes. Like it doesn't matter, but it's about who you are and what you bring to the table that's really going to change the game for you in your business. And I feel like this is so overlooked, and we're so worried whenever we first start showing up for our online business about like, oh, who do I need to be for other people? And like, how is it that I can show up and I can just like drop value on them all the time? And like, while yes, those are beautiful and important things, like you've got to feel like the shiniest object, like the most happy gold medal whenever you show up for your business, because people can feel that. Like you've got to truly believe that like the stuff that's going on in your brain, the way you see it, the way you say it is something that's really special and is something that is remarkable and is something that like nobody else in this world can duplicate because they can't. Nobody else is you. Nobody else is you, and nobody else sees things the way that you do. And so, whenever you start to realize how freaking important you are as an entrepreneur, you are as a content creator, this is whenever we really get in the vibe of like standing out from the rest of the crowd online. So these are my 8 things, which I probably could have made you a list of 100. If we're being honest, like I probably could have made a list of 100, but because there's only so much space on each Instagram slide and post, we stuck with 8 for the time being. So the very first thing was truly inspired by, if you know me and if you know my background, I was a lavender farmer. I did psychic medium work, but I really started showing up strong in my online business whenever I was teaching about astrology and the gene keys. And so, one of the things that I learned about these gene keys, though, that I learned in my own personal gene keys, it was like, hey, Stephanie, like you've got a really powerful voice. You got something different. Like there's something here that you need to be using your voice in a big way. And while I would be like that, in person, like I would talk and share advice with people in person. For some reason, I had kind of a hard time translating that on social media, like whether it be through video or whether it be through live video. So even like recording videos or live video, I had kind of a harder time. Like my voice would be like really weak and it would crack and it would be nervous and I would be so afraid of what I was going to say. And even like how I was saying it. But the Gene Keys showed me, they're like, hey, like, you've got an affinity for this thing if you lean into it. And so I just made it my mission to develop my voice. And that looked like a lot of things. That looked like me showing up on Insight Timer for probably like the first year of my business. And I would teach, there were like, it was almost a year that I was teaching like 2 or 3 times a week on Insight Timer while also getting on live video on Instagram or TikTok or other places. And even whenever there would be literally not even a soul there, and I would be talking to the pigeons outside my window, or if there were 50 people on there and I was like literally scared out of my mind, I knew that developing my voice was going to be the thing that separated me from the rest because nobody else, here's the thing, nobody else can sound like you, can truly sound like you. There's plenty of people that like go on TikTok or even on Instagram and try to like recreate things that other people have created. And it just does not go over because there's not the authenticity in it. There's not the you in it. Whenever you're trying to be and sound like somebody else, it just kind of falls flat. And that's why I love people like I've always had a fascination with like stand-up comedians, right? And so I love Jerry Seinfeld, even though that was like a little bit before my time. I went back and watched that show later, but he has a different voice. He has a different sounding voice than any Joe Schmo or Larry on the street. And you know, like your favorite creators and people that you like look up to, they sound different. They have their own unique tone, their own unique way of speaking. And so I'm such a big believer. Like, have you ever come across one of those videos where immediately when somebody starts talking, you're like, nope, scroll on past. Like, I'm not here for this. This is like, it's like nails on a chalkboard. This does not sound good to me. And even if that person would have like a super groovy message, right? Like they have something that would be really useful to you. The tone and the sound of their voice does not feel like comforting or activating or inspiring to your soul. And this is the most important thing about using our voice is that it attracts the right people and it repels the wrong people. So if you are not actively getting on, I love the hearts, by the way. I'm such a little generator spirit. I love like responding to things. So I always appreciate that. But it's one of those things that the more that you show up and you strengthen this voice, the more you're making room for the right people to come in and almost like separating the wheat from the chaff, as they say, like separating the people that are really meant to be in your world versus the people that are just hanging around lollygagging, like kicking rocks, not really here for the right reasons. And the more that you use your voice, the more confident you will get in your message because you just keep repeating. Like, honestly, I used to hate the idea that to be an online business owner, I would have to repeat myself. So I was like, oh my God, like people have already heard what it is that I was saying. And I had like I've had many wake up calls with this, but I had a real wake up call probably back in January. I was doing a podcast episode with somebody that had been following me for a year, another like online business coach, like doing their own thing. And she said to me, Stephanie, I had no idea you were a lavender farmer and that you did psychic medium work. And I'm like, I feel like I've said that 5 million fucking times. Like personally, I had felt like I had repeated that so many times that people would probably like be annoyed with it. And it's like, Stephanie, tell a new story. You sound like a broken record. But it just reminded me, it's like, no, we have to reiterate our message again and again and again. And honestly, the more I have leaned into repetition, is actually the more skilled I have become at teaching on topics. Like, think about that. The more skilled you become at teaching on that topic, because you're not just jumping from thing to thing, from idea to idea, you're getting really involved in and good at this thing that it is that you're talking about. And it makes people want to come back for more. And like, I think about my favorite creators, and a lot of the times they do repeat themselves. But the really cool thing about repeating yourself is that you're going to evolve. Your message evolves because you're living it, you're breathing it, and you're teaching it day in and day out. And so it just becomes stronger. You just have more clarity in it. You just feel more sure-footed whenever you're talking about this topic. So I promise you this, you you will never regret the time spent getting confident on camera and the power of using your voice, because it is truly the key to your self-expression in this journey that you call life and in your career. The faster that you allow yourself to get better at this thing, the better off you're going to be. Like, I'm so grateful for that time where I just went full pull. And even if I was in the situation where I am now, where I am busier doing my side job and working in other places, like I would still make it a priority to get on until my voice got strengthened. And I'm so glad that it played out the way that I did. But when there is a will, there is a way for you to do this stuff. And I remember there used to be times where I would get on live video and I would be tired, or I had a headache, or I had cramps. And I'm going to tell you what, the most incredible things would happen on those days where I would push myself to use my voice, even whenever I felt uncomfortable, or even whenever I wasn't all jacked up on Mountain Dew riding unicorns, like to say my message. Like I knew the voice was so important. This is the thing that's going to separate you from the rest. So never underestimate the power of your voice. And the coolest thing happens too, the more that you record videos, the more that you get on these lives, the more that you record podcast episodes, you will notice your voice gets stronger. Your voice gets happier. Your voice sounds healthier. You just sound more sure of yourself. And one way, okay, this is like a little weird side thing that I've been doing, but I remember hearing I think Taylor Swift said something about before she went on her tour, she got on the treadmill and would just like belt out singing. And then if you don't know who Chappell Roan is, I think that's how you pronounce it. Uh, she has the poppiest, funnest, spunkiest music right now. And I am just like on her side of TikTok. She's like crazy amazing. And she said that she did the same thing. Like whenever she was preparing, she was like opening for Olivia Rodrigo or something. And she said that she would do a fitness routine while singing her song. So like, I'm not even joking. Sometimes I'll do these little workout videos that are like Mamma Mia or all of this other stuff, like these songs that I know, and I will sing as much as I possibly can while doing physical activity just to strengthen that voice, because I know this isn't just like a momentary thing in my work. I know this is going to last the rest of my lifetime, right? So your voice is so important, and lean into it. And holy shit, we just talked so much about one of the things that makes you stand out in your online business. We still have 7 more to go. Buckle up your safety belts, people, because like, let's get rolling. This next part, like nobody ever talks about whenever it comes to starting your online business. And I like to bring it forward and put it in the spotlight immediately, because these are the little tiny things that are going to make people become like diehard fans of what it is that you do and who you are, like the things that you like. And you might be like, oh, Stephanie, well, I teach about diet and I teach about nutrition. Well, people also want to know about what kind of books you're reading. People also want to know what your cat's name is. Like, people also want to know what it is that you like, what is the sweet thing that you crave, that you let yourself have. Like, people want to know about you and those things that you like. These can be sprinkled in your written content. Whenever you're making comparison, whenever you're painting pictures for people, they can be sprinkled in your live videos. Like sometimes I'll be teaching a long ass lesson here on a live, and I'll just like randomly say something about my dog, Brad. And people will be like, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's just a corgi snoring behind me. And people will be like, show me the dog. Like, I need to see the dog. And so corgi lovers and dog lovers will be like, oh, I like that girl because this is what she's got going on in her life. You know what I mean? It's these little things about you that are these subconscious hooks for people that make them want to stay and say like, oh, I have this in common, or oh, I've always been interested in that as well. I want to watch. I want to like buckle up and see what it is that this person's doing. And people genuinely like you outside of what you're doing for your business. People really do connect with you because of who you are, not just what you're selling. That's why there's brands and there's these people that can constantly reinvent themselves and constantly evolve in their business because people genuinely like become a fan of who they are. And honestly, that's easier to do the more that you put yourself out there, because then you're going to feel really good about your likes and you're going to feel really good about sharing. You're going to feel this sense of community with your audience. You know, one of the things that like at one point I had felt crazy in my branding, like probably this time last year, I started like incorporating like on my sales pages and then some of my posts, like pictures of Furbies. And I was like, Stephanie, you're fucking high. Like, this is so weird. Why are you putting this on here? And then my second round of my Gene Key course, somebody that came into it was like, I saw the Furby and I like knew you were for me. And it was just, it will live in my brain forever. Like the fact that she said that will live in my brain forever because that's something that I was like, that's such a weird part of like things that I like and things that I think are funny that like pulled somebody else in. Like you never know what it is about yourself and your self-expression that's going to line up the right people to be knocking down your door, right? And the next one is your brand. And this is the funniest thing because I remember whenever I started showing up consistently in my online business that this whole element of like branding myself felt very mysterious. Like I didn't understand what a brand was, and I literally just thought it was fonts and colors. I thought that that's all a brand was just the appearances, the photo shoots that you do. And while, of course, those play into the bigger picture, what I've really come to understand a brand is these 3 to 5 values, or almost like your 3 to 5 content pillars that you just nail into and you repeat again and again and again. It's what you're known for, it's who you are, it's what your personality is. Like that is a bigger piece of your brand than any font or color or anything could be. Because I'm telling you what, over time, through posting every single day for years now, the look and style of my content has changed and it has morphed and it has evolved, but it always comes back down to the same message and the same feel, which is like, I celebrate people's weirdness and what makes them different. I celebrate confidence. I celebrate consistency. I celebrate like getting really good at content, those things. So it doesn't even matter always what it looks like. It's like, do you have this brand, this feeling that you put off for people that makes them want to keep coming back for more? So start looking at your brand as something so much bigger than just your aesthetics. I have almost every single person I've ever worked with has asked me the question, Stephanie, how important do you think aesthetics are? And I think that they play a role. I think for some people, they play a big role. You know, some of my friends that do business coaching that I've interviewed on my podcast, they're all about like having a cohesive looking brand and making it look like pristine and picture perfect. For me, I'm a little bit more loosey-goosey on that, and over time, that opinion may change. I may just be like so set in stone with how my stuff looks, like so in love with it, but I am a grand experimenter at the end of the day. And I think it's fun to experiment with your look and how it makes you feel because you got to keep yourself stimulated. But at the heart of it all, it's these 3 to 5 values, these 3 to 5 content pillars that you really stand for, that nobody else has the mix that you do. Nobody else has the mix of it that you do. Even if you are a nutrition specialist, like you might love talking about macros. You might love talking about the mindset pieces about it and binge eating and like all of these different layers of those 3 to 5 things that you really hit home, then nobody else talks about it that way, right? And so that's how you stand out in your brand. Ooh, girl, I gotta take a drink. The next one is your spunk, the things that make you spunky. And this is, again, I have learned so much from interviewing other entrepreneurs on my podcast. And I've met so many people throughout masterminds and classes that I've taken, and even just me like reaching out and being like, hey, you want to hop on a live video together? Like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? Blah, blah, blah. Like, I've learned so much from other entrepreneurs. And the thing that sticks out to me the most is that we're all so freaking different. This is why there's absolutely no way that you could truly be stuck in this cookie cutter mold online and not stand out, because every single one of these people that I've spoken to, they they have a different sense of humor. They like different TV shows. They say different catchphrases. Like there's something about them that will draw in those people that like those things too. So this is kind of going even harder on what I was saying before, but what is it that makes you weird? What is it that makes you goofy? What is it that makes you fun and excited and feel like there's a million lightning bolts going through your system? Because your ideal clients will be activated and turned on by those same things as well. They will. Like they're your people. Like you should be working with people that make you genuinely excited to open up your Voxer, open up your Telegram, open up that class and speak to. Like they should be people that you genuinely are like, oh, they get me. Like even honestly, if Nicole's still here, like we've talked about Game of Thrones so many times. Like I love, love, love Game of Thrones. I read all the books. I did all that. But not every Joe Schmo and Larry on the street that is going to see my stuff is going to immediately relate to that. You know what I mean? So you never know what it is about you that's going to pull people in and make them be like, yeah, Nicole knows. I think you've watched it way more than I have, but it's one of those things that like that's almost like this little siren's call of like, ooh, you're my kind of people. Like, oh, we're on the same page. Oh, we're going to similar places. Like, let's do this together. So you never know what it is about you. Like your sense of humor whenever you make certain TikTok videos. Like I have something so stupid and wonderful that is coming in the mail that I'm going to start like I don't care if I literally only use it for like 5 videos, but I'm going to incorporate it and see where it goes from there because my little intuition spunked up and I was like, I have to bring this in because this makes me laugh. So I know this will make people in my audience laugh. And so you have to follow that feeling of like your sense of humor in your business. And I know not everybody's brand has that fun, giggly weirdness, but I feel like if you're here, then there is something about your strange, little interesting sense of humor that needs to be infused into your work. Like, you don't just come hang out here on Stephanie's page for no reason. Like, you've got a good sense of humor and you're silly and strange and different and magical and wonderful in your own ways. And those are the things that are going to make people want to be in your world. Okay. So your spunkiness, your offers. Nobody teaches the way that you teach things. Nobody explains things the way that you explain things. I can't even tell you. I remember whenever I first like created my Decode Your Keys, the Gene Key course, whenever I like came up with that name, I was like, oh my God, it's like so original. Like it just like landed in my brain, right? I was like, oh, I love this. This feels perfect for this. And I think it was probably like 2 months later, just like randomly bopping through Instagram, I saw somebody else's course that was like decode your something or other, like decode your this, decode your that. And I saw another one like months later, and there was those pieces of me that could have easily been like, oh my God, like nothing is original. It's like, no, girl, like it doesn't matter. Like whatever somebody else is teaching, it's got nothing to do with the way that you teach because you are your own person. And so your offers are going to be your own kind of offer. They could never be the exact same unless you are literally trying to replicate the way that somebody is teaching. Like your offers will never look or feel or be the same as somebody else's. And so you should be proud of that. Like you should stand behind that and be willing to shout your offer from the rooftop. Like, do you know how many freaking courses that I've seen with people that I've learned from that their course is called Icon or Iconic or Captivate or Captivating? Like so many names, or like how to be a star, like whatever, like turn on your star qualities, turn on your X factor, like whatever it is. Like there are other people that might be teaching things that are a little similar to you, but nobody can do it your way. Nobody can do it from your point of view. And you got to trust that. You got to lean into that and realize that, like, the way that you say things and the way that you explain things is going to be how the door opens up in somebody else's mind to understand it. That's what I had to do with the Gene Keys. I had to realize, I was like, okay, the way that this is being taught online, it felt like a little bit of a snooze fest to me. And I was like very interested in the topic, but it just didn't feel that entertaining. And I was like, there's so many people that could benefit from this if this was like put through the view of humor, and this was put through the view of being an entrepreneur and using this in your content and your online business. And so even though it scared the shit out of me, I was like, I'm going to talk about this in a different way. And whenever I talk about it my way, that's how more people will learn it. It's the same for you. Whatever it is that you're teaching, doesn't matter that any other Joe Schmo or Larry can teach it. It's the way that you show up and you present it that's really going to hit with your ideal clients. And the next is like, it just kind of goes deeper into this. And this is your process. Your process of doing things is going to look different. One of the ways that I explain the Gene Keys often is, I like to think about it from like an energetic standpoint and then move it into like brainstorming and then action, right? So I always like describe the process of once you learn your Gene Keys, it's almost like you're putting on this outfit, you're like activating this archetype in yourself, and you start showing up that way while you're driving your car, while you're taking a shower. You feel this energy, you feel this archetype inside of you. You maybe make a playlist or get an outfit that makes you feel more groovy with this thing that's already been inside of you, but you're bringing more of it out. And then you move on to like, okay, now that I have this energy inside me, I'm going to brainstorm these ideas. And then from those ideas that you brainstorm of how to show up better on your social media, you take action, you execute, and you get different results. So that is my process for the Gene Keys, right? That's one of the ways that I teach them. You have a process for whoever's counting their macros or intuitive eating or getting healthy for their fertility, like whatever it is that you teach, tapping into their psychic abilities, like whatever you teach your own process. You teach your own way of doing that, and nobody else can replicate that, right? And so whenever you get really, really dialed in to what it is that you're teaching, you're going to have these frameworks, right? Like I'm a little slut for frameworks, like for sure. I love a good framework. I love breaking things down into 3 to 5 pieces for people to easily digest and gobble up, right? And I mean, even this post today that we're riffing off of is an example of a framework, right? It's boom, boom, boom. These are the things. And that helps keep your ideas organized. That helps keep your teaching like streamlined in a way that you don't get squirrel brained. And it helps people to understand and digest it and take action from it way more than if you're just like sitting there spewing things out. Like, like I've been in master classes before or like jumped on a freebie or whatever, where people are just talking for an hour and it feels confusing and it feels like not as tidy as it could, right? And so I love having frameworks of how I teach things. And whenever you start to see your teaching in these frameworks, it's going to make it so much easier for you to repeat these things again and again and again, to be known for these things online. Even like these are the things that are kind of like your content pillars. These are kind of like your brand and your values, right? And then you get to just grow from there. Like you'll have one framework, and then you'll have a second framework for doing this, and then another framework for doing that. And it's just going to keep growing and growing, and you'll be known for more and more things. But yeah, nobody can replicate your process and your way of seeing it. Like somebody else could have looked at the gene keys and taken it in a totally different direction than I did. But the way that I teach it is going to make it make sense for the people that need it from me. The way that you teach something is going to make it make sense for the people that are here for you, right? Okay. The next part that can't be replicated, that I need to take another drink. Hang on. Okay. That can't be replicated in your business is your heart. The way that you care for your clients, the way that you actually care about the words that you say in your content, the way that you just like show up and genuinely want to help people do something better. Because at the end of the day, in a business, what we are doing, whether you have a product or a service, is helping people do something better, whether that be easier, whether that be with more fun, whether that be with more efficiency. You're helping someone do something better. And so nobody in this world can replicate your heart and your care. And you get to make your own rules in your business of what your boundaries are and how much you give and how much you deliver. And it will change over time and it will grow over time. But no one, like I remember there was something from one of the gene keys that talks about, I'm talking a lot about the gene keys today, but they're such a good example of just like how I've used them before in business. And I hope that this like sparks your imagination of how you can use it for yours as well. But I remember this one thing in the gene keys that says like almost verbatim, it's like, you're the type of person that it doesn't matter what you're selling your heart. You're selling what's on your heart. And so again, that's why nobody else can replicate what it is that you're doing. You have a different heart. You have a different voice. You have all these different things about you that pull people in. And so understanding like that you're going to approach business from such a different vibe than the person next to you. And that is a beautiful thing. And that is exactly what your clients need from you, right? And like I said, it's allowed to evolve and grow and transition over time, but it's going to be perfect at the right time. And then is this one the last one? Yes, this is the last one. So the last is your drive. So we went from your heart to your drive, like your fire, like that burning oomph in your belly that tells you to go. And some people's drive is money. Some people's drive is traveling. Some people's drive is a happy family. Like some people have a combination of all of those things. Some people's drive is the fucking journey of just getting better as a human being or as a content creator, as an entrepreneur, learning as much as they possibly can. Nobody is going to be able to replicate the drive that you have and your why behind why you do things. So whenever you're showing up and you're posting every day, or you're selling on your Instagram stories, or you're showing up and doing a podcast episode, like your drive is going to be dripping in your every single word, like what it is that you're here for, what it is that you stand for. And this is going to make you stand out because I guarantee the people in your audience that want something similar are going to be there and they're going to be listening and gobbling up everything that you say because they're like, okay, I want those things too. Like I want to learn how to do this faster. I want to learn how to do this better, right? Your drive is the thing that's going to get you out of bed in the morning. Like I've gaslit myself. I'm not even shitting you. Like I've gaslit myself into like the first thought that comes through my brain whenever I wake up in the morning is how can I help somebody? And like I literally, instead of being like, how do I get more views or how do I get more this or that? I'm like, what can I do to show up today to be a helpful motherfucker for somebody that needs to be more confident online, for somebody that needs more clarity, that needs more consistency, that needs more confidence in like who they are as they show up as their wild, weird, wonderful, self-expressed version of themselves. I'm like, how can I be helpful? Like that is my drive in the morning. And something changes whenever your drive is like, all of those other results are happening and you see them. But also, there's something magical about just showing up and giving and getting better at the art of creating content and solving problems for people. Incredible things happen whenever you're like, I'm going to solve a problem for these people and I'm going to show up because there's something inside of me that is telling me go, that is telling me get better at this thing, that is telling me I can do more, I can have more, I can be more. Follow that umph. And like I said, whether it is just that feeling that you have, or whether it is this beautiful painted picture of the exact kind of car that you want, of the exact kind of life that you want, like I believe that everybody's different with their motivations, right? And so, whatever it is for you, that is going to help you in this whole cauldron. Like, think about all these 8 things as like, as these ingredients that go into this cauldron that make the perfect business for you that nobody else can replicate. Like, there's a reason that we learn from courses and business coaches and things like that, but we can't replicate A, B, C, D, every single thing that they do because we're all such different human beings, right? And so whenever we lean into our things like our brand and our values, whenever we lean into our voice and strengthening that, whenever we remember the things that we like and the things that make us different and are proud to talk about those things, and you combine that with your business, you become an unshakable freaking force of nature, my friend. And you are the kind of person that stands out from everybody else in the sea of other content creators, right? Because it can be so easy to just like take an idea and replicate it and do trending stuff and blah, blah, blah. It's a whole different energy to not be. I was just watching the Steve Martin documentary. Like I did a video on this earlier, but I was watching the first part of the Steve Martin documentary and he was talking about the fact whenever he was like learning stand up, he was like, I can either be at the tail end of something that's dying out, or I can be at the front of something new that hasn't been done before. And whenever you think about yourself in that way, and you think about your content creation and your business in that way, you don't have to follow anybody else's fucking rule books to get to where you need to go. So remember this. Like there is patience, there is drive, there is tenacity that needs to go into your business and into you truly like blossoming as a creator and an entrepreneur. But there's also these 8 things that you can lean the fuck into and really feel like the most confident, bold, ballsy, coolest version of yourself while you're doing this and while you're getting better. God, I love this kind of stuff. Like, this is my favorite thing to talk about is things that make us different. And I literally look back on my life and I remember there were so many things that like when I was younger, I always felt weird and I felt strange and I felt different. Like I was a little nervous kid that I didn't think I was going into this today, but what the frick ever. Like I was a little nervous kid. I had like divorced parents that lived on opposite sides of the country and just kind of like bopped around a lot. And like I look at the really cool benefits I got from that now of like, I'm a very adaptable person, right? But it led me to be like this little nervous black sheep whenever it came to real life whenever I was younger. And I just remember always like holding that feeling of just feeling different. And instead of thinking that that's a bad thing, as I've gotten older and as I've understood myself and as I've gotten to know people, and like my favorite thing to do is ask people about themselves and about like it's like 21 questions. Like that's why I love interviewing people, because I think it's so fun to find out what makes us all tick, what makes us all different. Like my eyes were open so many different times that like I lived in this little town, went to this little Lutheran school that like everybody wanted to dress the same, everybody wanted to talk the same. And I just always felt like it didn't fit and it didn't feel good and something felt off. And now I understand it. Now I know why I had that feeling, because I love to celebrate what makes people different. I love to celebrate what makes people weird and strange and fantastical, and how you can bring that into your passion projects, how you can bring that into your content, how you can bring that into your offers and the work that you do, and how you show up on social media and present yourself to the world, because you're here to make an impact. Like if you have this feeling of being different, it's for a reason. If you have this feeling of like you're here and you're listening to this, whether it's 5 years from now or whether it's 5 minutes from now, like you're listening to this for a reason. Like there's a fire inside of you, there's a lightning bolt that goes through you that is different than the rest, and you're here to set the tone. You're here to teach other people. You're here to teach people how to do something in a better way. So trust that, lean into your different, enjoy that. Like honestly, like roll around in it like you would in a bed of flowers, like all the things that you love. I remember leaning into the fact that like I'm obsessed with smutty fantasy books, like opened up the door for so many more people to come into my world that I wasn't expecting. And I was like nervous to share about that and like talk about that. But now I'll literally tell you, like I'll read the Ice Planet Barbarian series, which is like smutty, like on another planet, like romantic filthiness. It's amazing. But then I'll sit there and read a book that was like the journal of Marcus Aurelius that was from 2000 years ago, and he was the Roman Empire. You know what I mean? Like whenever you share those things about yourself, those are the things that are going to make people be like, oh girl, I get your brain, I get who you are, and I'm here for it. I want to learn from you. I want to be in this place with you, and I want to do this thing with you. So trust those things, lean into those things, and I would love a dove to help you bring out more of yourself in your business through your content, through your offers, through how you show up confidently on camera. So if you have not yet, make sure you go follow over on my Instagram if you have not been there yet, because there's so much freaking juice every day. I'm just dropping the magical juice every single day over on Instagram to help you feel more confident and bold and to lean into your different confidently. But also message me to work together. Right now, I have spots open for one-to-one that I am so excited about, because I really help clients like dig in to what it is that they're doing and almost like reconstruct that. Now, the content piece is something that has been an obsession of mine for probably over a year now, but I was so focused on gene keys and that kind of thing that I'm just now like really bringing this out to play with all my clients, and it's been so fun. So reach out if you're like, hey, I am hungry for that one-to-one mentorship. Like you have that feeling for a reason. You have that feeling like I want an extra set of eyes. I want somebody to point me in the right direction to help like be a little idea machine with me so that I can show up and be the bravest, most confident, boldest version of me online. So I love you. I'm so glad you were here today hanging out with me. If this is something like, go back and listen to this again and again. I'm going to put this on the podcast, the Tap That Magic podcast. I'm going to put this up on my YouTube channel so that you can rewatch it again and again and again, because you're going to get something different from this every time you tune in and listen. I'm such a big believer that like, the more that we go back to things that we love from creators or teachers or entrepreneurs that we love, and we really like get the most out of those messages, like you're going to hear something different every time that's going to give you an idea that's going to change the trajectory of your life. So trust this. There's so much good stuff in this podcast episode, in this live today, but I love you. I hope that you have the most beautiful weekend. I'll probably pop back on tomorrow, to be honest with you, because I am just on this like train of like, I got to talk. There's so much to say, like, let's get it out there. So I love you. And I hope you have a great weekend. Bye-bye.